Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Before I start my topic, I just want to give a quick brief introduction. This year, Mujeeb Sahab has made a plan to deliver us on different topics. So instead of doing Quran like in a sequence, we're going to be delivering darses on a different topic. So the topic he gave me to talk about is life of Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Seerah of Holy Prophet. And I'm going to be delivering 4 different darses in the first week of Ramadan. I think I'll be done in first week. And then different people will cover different topics. So with that, I will start my today's dars. Please feel free to ask questions. And if you feel that I have quoted something which is not accurate, feel free to chime in and let me know, because I'm also learning as everyone else is learning. So let's go to the next slide. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the brief history of Holy Prophet ﷺ, and I want to focus initially on why should we study Seerah. What is the main reason? Why do we need to do that? And also a little bit about situation. What was the situation at the time of Holy Prophet ﷺ? And then as the time permits, I will either continue tomorrow with the rest or as we go along. So let's start with what does the word Seerah means. It means to traverse or to take journey. So the word means taking a journey to traverse. It is derived from the word Sara, which means to travel. And that is the reason why Seerah is called Seerah, is because we are traveling his journey, following his footsteps. And also why the Seerah is exclusively for the biography of Holy Prophet the best human to ever live. Even though it can be used for any biography. So the Seerah can be used for anyone, but specifically the Islamic scholars in the past have mentioned Seerah specifically for Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So when we say Seerah to Nabi or Seerah, generally it means we're talking about Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So why should we study Seerah? So that's the first question. What's the main thing? The benefits are numerous. Allah has, number one, Allah has commanded us to know this man, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So Allah has specifically told in Quran that we need to know about Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It is an obligation, and there are many verses in Quran that commanded us to take the Prophet as an example. So for example, I pick a verse, indeed there is for you in the messenger of Allah an exemplary manner, a perfect conduct. Uswatun hasana. So Allah is saying that by following him, you can lead a perfect life. So we have the perfect example. Therefore, the life of our Prophet is the study of someone we must follow. And amazingly, no matter how we look at it, the Seerah, we will benefit from it. So no matter which angle of Seerah you study, which part of the Seerah you will know, you will learn from it, you will benefit from it, it will help in your life. So depending on whose book you read, whose video you watch, whose information you take, you will learn from Seerah. For example, in religion, in terms of how we should worship Allah, how should we perform various religious acts, like Salat? We just had an Asr Namaz. How do we learn from Seerah? Because the Seerah tells us how to perform Salat. There is no verse in Quran which says go to the sajda, go stand up, bow down, say Qayat. There's nothing mentioned in Quran like that. Quran says offer Salat, Aqimu Salata, perform Salat. But Holy Prophet ﷺ example tells us how to do Salat. Similarly, the fast. We just started the month of Ramadan, and we're noticing that this today is our first fast, but how to do the fast, what can we do, things we should do, what things we should not do, we learn from Holy Prophet Sallallahu Seerah. And there are many. Second is morals and manners. We learn from his morals and manners, how should we perform as a Muslim. And this is where we have really disconnect nowadays, our Muslim youth or our Muslim in general, or the Western society when they talk about Muslims, they just portray us as like a bad people, or really we don't know, the people from the Stone Age or bad manners. And how the mercy and the tenderness, his love for fellow human beings, how much Holy Prophet ﷺ loved his fellow companions, his Sahabas, his people around him. His leadership, how he led the Muslims to the success in different battles, in different scenarios, in different treaties, in different situations. And then we can learn from him how was he as a father, as a husband, as a son-in-law, as an uncle, and etc. So many different parts. How should we, our relationship? Everyone has some relationship there. Either they are sons of someone, or they are fathers, or they are uncles, or aunts, or their sisters. We can learn from them. And then also we can also learn about how he treated people, how he treated the prisoners of war. When he won the Battle of Badr, how he treated those prisoners. They were there to kill him. Like when he won that battle, how he treated those people, the prisoners of war. So Allah tells us if he had wanted, he could have sent angels. But what would have done if he sent angels? What you have done, sent angels? You would have rejected them. This is from Quran. Indeed, of the perfection of Allah's wisdom is that he sent down a human being. So Allah could have sent angels to do the job, to prescribe Islam, to portray everything, but he sent a human person, a physical person, just like us. So prophets are born of, so people like us, with flesh and bones. So we do not say, but we cannot be like them. So if we have an angel working as a prophet, then we say, well, good for him, but I can't be an angel. I'm not an angel. I'm a human. It's not my capacity to act like him. But he treated a person like a human flesh, like a man. And people, prophets are born of women. They marry. They have children, just like us. But the difference is they are chosen by Allah and are made role models for us. So any prophet, we pick any prophet throughout from Adam to Noah to Abraham to Jesus to Moses, they are models for us. They are role models for us. And now we have Holy Prophet, the best of the best, which we follow. The seerah is the number way to increase our love for the Prophet. So by learning about seerah, by knowing about seerah, this is our first best way to increase our love. There is no other way as powerful as this. This is a sad fact of our ummah today, our community today, that we neglected the study. Most of us know very little about the life of Holy Prophet. And so, and it's embarrassing, we know so much about other people, like movie stars, actors, sports personalities. We know so much about other areas, people we follow on different Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, but we have very little or very basic knowledge about Holy Prophet himself. And we have no clue what to the real person we should know about. So by studying seerah, what it does, it increases our love. And it's a two-way street. In order to increase our love, we must study him. But by studying him, we are expressing our love. Indeed, you love someone, you want to know everything about him. So if you love someone, you want to know about that person. You want to know what they like, what they don't like, what they want us to do, what things make them happy, what they make them sad, what they don't like to talk about. And we want to imitate him. We want to be like them. If we want to love someone, we want to be like that person. So that is also, the seerah helps, because we want to love. We claim that we love Holy Prophet. We claim that he is the best prophet. We all want to follow him. and we hear all the time stories. Hazur is talking about Badri companions for months, almost a year now, and he's going in detail about each and every companion who participated in battle. So what he's trying to do is to inculcate the love of Holy Prophet in ourselves. So we should go and talk about them and read about them and maybe learn about how they live their lives and try to follow them. Also, Seerah, what it does is it also helps us to understand Quran. So by understanding Seerah, we understand Quran. Because Quran is so complex, you cannot just understand without knowing Holy Prophet. Quran on as is, if you read the tafsir of Hazrat Muslim Maud, he gives in so much detail and he goes in so many different angles versus you pick a Quran and just read Arabic. First of all, we don't know much about the translation, but if we do know the translation, still we are not able to learn the whole details. So in order to understand Quran, we need to understand how Holy Prophet lived his life and how he followed the Quran. So we cannot understand this. So for example, in Surah Zohar, Allah says, your Lord has not abandoned you. So in the Zohar says, we cannot understand this word, but if we know the context, in the initial years of Holy Prophet, in the Holy Prophet's prophethood, after he had been appointed by God as the Prophet ﷺ was worried and concerned for weeks that a revelation, the Wahi has come down. So after first revelation, there was a little pause for a few weeks, few months, and so Holy Prophet was worried that what happened, that Allah has abandoned me and I'm not getting, is there something, maybe it was just some mistake. So he was worried about it. So then Allah says that your Lord has not abandoned you. So, but if we know the context, why it has been mentioned and what was the situation, then we can understand this verse thoroughly. So it means in order to understand Quranic verses, we need to understand the life of Holy Prophet, the context about it, when it was delivered, why it was delivered, what was the situation, what was he talking about. Okay. So this is the first year of revelation. So we had some doubt, he had some doubt about it. So Allah told him to be patient. So until we understand this, the surah does not make much sense. So we gain the meaning of Quran by studying the life of Holy Prophet. Now it raises our hope, lift our spirit and blesses with optimism. So when we read Seerah, we understand Seerah, we talk about Seerah, we know what Holy Prophet was gone through. It lifts our spirits because he had to go through lots of trial and tribulation. He had to go through a lot of hardship. He was born as an orphan. Before he was born, his dad passed away. When he was a kid, his mom passed away. When he was 8 years old, his grandfather passed away. So he had to go through a lot of trouble, a lot of hardship. So if we follow it and we do it, it lifts our spirit. It blesses with our optimism. We are not being prosecuted compared to the Sahabas. Nowadays, we are not prosecuted like the Sahabas, like Hazrat Bilal, Hazrat Sumayya, Hazrat Ammar, different Sahabas gone through different hardships. We have some trials, some tribulation, but nothing compared to what they had to go through. But we are facing a little bit of heat. By studying the Seerah, we can understand the people before us suffered how much. They suffer a lot more than and they sacrifice a lot. They had to give up. They have to give up their Jahiliyyah habits. They were used to gambling. There were three things which Arabs were really proud of. At the time of Holy Prophet was born, the Arabs were really brag about three things. Number one, gambling. Number two, drinking. And number three, fornication, the adultery. They used to write poetries about it, that they are such a good drinker. They can drink for hours, and that's their status. These people were like that. So it raises our hope as by studying the Seerah, we can understand that people before us suffered much more. And in fact, the Quran tells us that Allah is telling the Prophet ﷺ the stories of early prophets. Similarly, Allah in Quran taught Holy Prophet ﷺ the stories of other prophets. Moses, Jesus, Hazrat Ibrahim ﷺ. These stories were not just mere stories. These were the lessons for Sahabas, for Holy Prophet, that, hey, before you, the prophets had gone through these hardships. You have to go through these too as well. You have to be like Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam, Hazrat Moses alayhi salam, Hazrat Harun alayhi salam. All these different prophets are mentioned. They are mentioned for a reason. They are not just stories or, okay, Moses did something nice, okay, good for him, or what can I do? Every story has a lesson for Muslims. Every story has a lesson for Sahaba and for us. So that is the reason okay. We are going to recite you the stories of previous prophets in order that your heart attains affirmation. That is, it is increased the Holy Prophet's optimism and iman. It affirms our faith. So by reading the stories, by knowing what my prophets have gone through, what kind of tribulation and hardship they had to suffer, what kind of punishment they had to suffer, what kind of prosecution they had to go through, it raises the hope. Hey, they succeeded, they did it, I can do it too. And also it's for us. We go through that. We're going through different trials and tribulations in different countries, maybe not as much in USA, but in Pakistan, in different Bangladesh or other Sri Lanka or other countries. So we, by learning about them, by knowing that how Holy Prophet suffered and his Sahaba suffered, it also gives us optimism. Another benefit is that the Seerah itself is a miracle. It talks about different miracles. For example, the splitting of moon, Shaktul Qamar, the tailing of trees. But rather his whole life is indication that he was truly the prophet. So his whole life, when we read about it, we really know, well, this was a true prophet. Coming from where he came from, bringing forth the elegance of the Quran, and the leadership, patience, success from the middle of a pagan ancient civilization that didn't even have a literacy library or school. So he got all the education and everything he taught them. They don't even have schools. They don't even have libraries. They don't even have scholars teaching other scholars, students. They don't have that. But Holy Prophet taught them that. And yet he came from the midst of a barbaric nation. They were really barbaric people. The tribes were fighting for ages. If you kill one tribesman, they have to take revenge. They have to go through a lot of trouble and killing. And even then, sometimes they are not satisfied. But Holy Prophet taught them the manners. Holy Prophet tells them how to behave. And yet he came from the midst from a barbaric nation. Within 50 years, Islam spread. Within hundreds of years, it's ruled the world. So within few years, within 50 years, meaning 23 years of Holy Prophet's life, next 30 years of Khulafa Rashidin, Islam spreads all over the world. The Arabs were gone to fight with Romans and Persians. When the first time they were going to fight with the Romans at the time of Hazrat Abu Bakr, Hazur mentioned last Friday's sermon, the Romans were, when they found out the Arabs are about to come and attack us, they were laughing. They were joking. They were saying, "What are Arabs? Are they going to compete with us? They're going to fight with us?" Imagine a small country today and think about, or North Korea today think about attacking USA, and the US would kind of like be laughing. Okay, they're going to have any chance to destroy us? But it happened. So this is a miracle. The Seerah is an affirmation of a miracle. The power he wielded with, yet the simplicity with which he lived his life. Even with achieving all the powers and all the glory, the simplicity of his life is amazing. The way he used to live, the way he used to eat, the way he used to sleep, the way he used to walk around. It's amazing. I mean, even with all the success and glory, his lifestyle never changed. That is also a lesson for us. That, hey, when you have power and you have glory and you have money, and if somebody wins a lottery today, the first thing they say, oh, I'm going to buy this, I'm going to buy that. If you find out any interview of the lottery winners, you will see what they're talking about. But Holy Prophet ﷺ never changed his style. He never changed the way he was. So, okay. And it is impossible for a human not to be affected by their power or luxury unless there is a pure and divine sincerity. Ibn Hazan, a famous Andalus scholar, he was a scholar at the time of Andalus. If the Prophet ﷺ had not, he said, if the Prophet ﷺ had not been given any miracle other than his life, it would have been sufficient to prove that he is a prophet of Allah. He was not, if he was not giving any miracle, if you just know how he spent his time, how he lived his life, that itself is sufficient to say he's a prophet of Allah. How he revolutionized Arabia and changed the entire world. This is truly a miracle. Within 20 plus years, nobody would have ever predicted a group came from Arabia and destroyed the Romans and the Persian empires. No one ever, even in the slightest belief, can imagine that in 20 plus 30 years or 50 years, that these Muslims, these Arabians, these illiterate Arabs will conquer Roman empires and Persian empires. That is, even today, I was doing some research for my darshan on trying to find out that even the Western scholars still don't know how Muslims were able to beat Romans and Persians at the same time. Hazrat Umar sent the army in both places at the same time. Imagine you are two superpowers, and Hazrat Khalid bin Walid is going back and forth between them. He finished one, he was called in to go from Persia to Syria, and he took his people and they destroyed, and they don't understand how come 20, 25,000 people were able to destroy 100,000 plus army at their backyard. This is the war was not in the backyard of Medina or Mecca. Muslims had to go to that place, to Syria, to the Romans area, and then they were able to achieve this. Unbelievable. They still don't know how it happened. They speculate, they think about, because they don't believe these people from Allah, the angels are helping, Allah's help is there, their mission is not to destroy people or capture wealth. So they don't understand that. They think these are worldly people, so they don't know how come a worldly person be able to beat other worldly people. That is their problem. So we also see the life and the times of the best people who ever lived. The best generation is indeed Sahaba. Allah says, Allah is pleased with them and they are pleased with Allah. Raziyallahu anhu wa razu anhu. And the Prophet said, the best ummah is my ummah. Holy Prophet said himself, there's a famous hadith, he said, my ummah is the best ummah. And Ibn Masud said, Allah looked at the hearts of his servant and he chooses the best, most purest to be the Prophet. Then he chooses the purest next and made them the Sahaba of the Holy Prophet. So we will study the source when we study it. So this is Allah, Holy Prophet said, my ummah is the best ummah. My Sahabas are the best Sahabas. There's a famous hadith where he said that if you follow any Sahaba, they are like stars. They can take you to the heaven. They will take you to the right path. And Ibn Masud is saying that Holy Prophet mentioned, my ummah is the best. I'm the best prophets, and the Sahabas are the purest. So when we read the stories of Hazrat Abu Bakr, Hazrat Umar, Hazrat Usman, Hazrat Ali, we learn from them how they were able to sacrifice, how they were able to perform different duties, how they were able to manage, how they were able to do things during wars. Everything we can learn from them. So by reading and by learning about these people, what it does is our iman goes up. We say, oh, if they have done it, maybe we should also try some. We should also, especially in this month of Ramadan, we just started, we are fasting, we're coming to masjid more, we are offering more salat. Generally people are offering more nawafils, doing more sadaqah. So our spiritual faith goes up. So with that we can also say, hey, if they did it, maybe we should also try. And that's what Hazur is trying. By telling all the stories of Badri companions and naming each one individually, talking about them maybe briefly or in detail. Some Sahabas he covered in whole khutbah, like Usman bin Wazin and others, Abdullah bin Zubair and different. Some he just gave a brief description. What's the reason? Why he's just talking about it for months and months? Is to follow them. You pick any one of them, anyone you like, you say, okay, I want to follow X, how he used to live. Let me try, let me see. Maybe I can be able to do something like what he did. And that's the reason. That's why he's talking about it. That's why he's trying to tell us to know about these people. So Holy Prophet said, my Sahabas are like stars. mentioned the fact that this is the reason Hazur has been dictated in the sermons in the last year. So we talk about each of the Badri Sahabas, and like I just said. Next, the Seerah brings about knowledge which we have defend the honor of Prophet ﷺ. So by learning the Seerah, by learning the life of Holy Prophet ﷺ, we can defend the honor of himself. The honor of our Prophet will always be attacked. It is always attacked from day one. The Arabs were attacking him. The Abu Jahl was attacking him. Abu Lahab was attacking him. Different people were doing that time. Today we have different people are trying to create cartoons. Danish guy wrote a cartoon, or the Salman Rushdie wrote a book about him, satanic verses, or others, or there. So there is always attack on him. And when Quraysh, they didn't understand why he was getting so success. They called him, he's a madman. They called him, he's a magician. They called him, he's a poet. They called him, he's a soothsayer. They were actually having a meeting in Darul Nadwa, and they're talking, what should we call him? Because the people come for Hajj during the days in an yearly pilgrimage, and they're worried the Holy Prophet was going to do tabligh. So they say, when these people come from outside, from Yemen, from Syria, from different areas, what should we call him? Because what should we tell him that? Because he's not going to stop. So they used to come up with ideas. Hey, we should call him he's a magician, or maybe he's a madman, or maybe he's a poet. And then they say, no, he's not mad. He has a very good manner. He's very truthful. Or he's not a magician. He has a very respectable family. He has a proper life. He has kids. And they think about it, and then they say, no, maybe not. Maybe we should talk in something else. Because no one can explain how the Quran came. They don't understand how the Quran came, how the angel Gabriel came and he gave the message. And they said all this. It continues to this day. Like I said, even it continues today. We in our times, how many people say that Prophet ﷺ was a bloodthirsty terrorist? He was a warmonger. He always wants to fight. This is today the Western people talk about. They say he was a womanizer. He married so many women. He married a child bride. They talked about he was a killer. He likes to kill. He killed so many Jews at Banu Qurayza after Battle of Khandaq. He married so many women, so etc. So if we want to defend him, our Prophet, how can we do that if we don't know anything about him? If we don't know what actually happened? If somebody comes to you and say, hey, you know that he killed so many hundreds of Jews, and you don't know, I don't know, I've never heard of it. Okay, what happened? What was the context? What actually happened? So by learning Seerah, we can defend his honor. We can understand why certain things happen at certain time. What was the main reason? What was the logic behind it? Does it really happen or not? So, and there is no other way to study the Seerah. This is why the Sahabas used to teach Seerahs along with sciences. So that after Holy Prophet's demise, the Sahabas and their kids, the Tabe'een and Taba Tabe'een, they used to teach Seerah as a part of their sciences to their kids. That's how the first Seerahs were written. They used to teach Quran, and they also used to teach Seerahs to their kids. Literally, they used to have classes like this, and different teachers. And that's where they also learned a lot from Hazrat Aisha. She was also a very famous scholar. She even taught men behind the parda. So this is how they used to learn. Hazrat Ali bin Hussein, the great grandson of Prophet ﷺ, said, we would teach our children the Seerah, just like we would teach them the Quran. So the curriculum was Quran plus Seerah. And we must do all the same with our children. We need to also do the same. We need to encourage our kids and our daughters and our sons to not just read Quran, but also learn about Seerah. And we have so many books for children nowadays. There are so many books available on Al-Islam, talks about different companions, different sahabas. They are written for children. So that's how they used to do it. To summarize, the study of the Seerah is the study of the best of the best. It is the study of the life of the best single human to ever live. This is the story of the Muslims have passed down from generation to generation for 1400 plus years. This story is coming down in generation to generation from different sahabas to different companions to different books. The seerah books were written long before the ahadith books were written. Ahadith came about almost 150, 200 years later. The seerahs were written right after his demise. A story about his life is a story about a merchant, about a husband, about a father, about a statesman, about a warrior, whom we consider the final prophet, the man whose legacy continues to shape our lives even today. His legacy, his life shapes our lives. If we follow him, we follow our life. Our lives will revolve around that. So the Holy Prophet said, I am the leader. I am the paragon of virtue of the children of Adam. I am not just saying this is out of arrogance. The best times, the best people, and are the Sahabas, and the best place was Mecca and Medina. These are the holiest places on earth. But we know this, but he knew this, and really cared about Mecca and Medina until Holy Prophet lived there. Does anybody care about Mecca and Medina before Holy Prophet says so? Some people even say, we never even heard of that place. You guys exaggerate and make it like a very important place. There was no such thing, or Mecca was not such a big business center or like that. Nobody talked about Mecca and Medina before Holy Prophet says so. And indeed, especially Medina, where the Holy Prophet said, I am making Medina the holy place, like Abraham made Mecca the holy place. So when the Sahabas moved from Mecca, migrated to Mecca to Medina, they had a really hard time. There, the climate was different, the atmosphere was different, the weather was different. The Medina has more agriculture, Mecca was more merchant, more business-like. So the Sahabas had a really, really hard time living. Recently, Hazur mentioned in a prior sermon last week that one time after the migration, in the very beginning, the first month, Hazrat Bilal had and Hazrat Abu Bakr and Hazrat Talha, I believe, they were sitting in a room and they were talking. And one of them had a really high fever. And they were cursing the Arabs, and they were saying, how woe to them, we lost our houses, we lost our family, we missed Mecca. They had a really hard time. Imagine we've been living in Chantilly area, we had to be forced to go somewhere else, where we have nothing, we have to establish from start, we lose our jobs, our houses, our business. So they were having hard time, and they really were like a friendly talk among each other, saying this is bad, this is not good. And so Hazrat Aisha stopped by, she came and she heard they were talking like this. So she went back to her Holy Prophet and he said, you know, your best friends are talking like this, Hazrat Abu Bakr and Bilal, and you know how much they are in trouble, how much they are suffering. So Hazrat Sallam made that prayer, that, oh Allah, make the love of Medina in my people's heart. Make them love Medina. And that even it is today true. When you go Mecca or Medina, you see the people who go to the Umrah or Hajj, how much they like that places, how much they love about that mosque, the Grand Mosque or other places. That prayer was made by Holy Prophet Sallallahu that, hey, my people start loving these places. They had to go suffer all that. So Holy Prophet Sallallahu said, so I'm making Medina the holy place like Abraham made Mecca the holy place. It was the best era. In every angle, it was the best of the best. So studying the Seerah is studying how Allah changed the world with Islam, only within 23 years. So in a short 23 years, from the first revelation to the last revelation, Allah Ta'ala changed the whole Arabia. There is a famous documentary made after 9/11 by BBC. It's a 3-part series. It's available on YouTube. People can watch. And I like a lot about it, but in one of the parts, the guy mentioned, he said, however you look at it, how you think about Holy Prophet, whatever your opinion about him, he's talking about non-Muslims, whatever you think, he's a very shrewd businessman, he was a very good general, he was a very good statesman, he was a very good politician. He said, no matter what you say about him, the status of Arabia before his advent, the status of women, the status of people, the slaves, the status of blacks, the status of non-Arab. And when he died, nobody can question that status is not improved. every single angle you look at it. For 1 second, if you imagine that he's not from Allah, even then, everything about them is changed. The Arabs were totally changed. No one can say, well, because he came, things are gone bad now. Or well, it used to be like this, now everything is worse. No, every single angle you pick up of his life, you talk about it, you'll learn that their level is gone up. The human rights, the inheritance rights, the women's rights. The Arabs, some of the tribes were even burying their live newborn daughters because they don't want girls. And that is the situation with the women. And when we talk about multiple marriages, they were marrying in dozens. They don't even count. They just marry and for days, weeks. Islam actually, by bringing the clause of 4 marriages, actually it's a restriction. It wasn't that they go ahead and marry many more. They were all marrying left and right, and countless marriages were happening within Arabs, and they don't even care. Their slaves and their other possessions. So Islam brought the order to that. So with that, I will stop today. I will give 5 minutes for anybody has any question about Syria. And maybe I can also talk about, so for a beginner, for a starter, I would say Hazrat Mirza Bashir Ahmad wrote a very beautiful book, The Life and Character of the Seal of Prophet. Sirat Khatamun Nabiyeen is also available in Urdu and in English translation. It's a very easy read, very good detailed read. A lot of my notes are also from this book. So I would highly encourage during Ramadan, along with reading Quran, if you can spend time and read this book. It's available on Al-Islam. You can download, you can read PDF. Pretty sure it might be, the audio is available as well, I'm not sure, but if it is, you can listen while driving. So with that, I'll go to the next slide just to talk about what we're going to cover tomorrow. Tomorrow is also, I'm going to continue with the same topic. So we talked about why the study of Sira, I've gone in detail. Let me just go through a couple of my slides. The Islamic movement led by Holy Prophet brought a divine message of salvation and success. It addresses the issue and the problem of this world. Can you go back? Hamza, I'm on the slide number 3. Islamic movement led by Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It addresses the issues. It addresses the issues and problem of this world and gives logical solutions. Like I said, its message is universal. Islam is the religion which is forever. From the day it was started till the day we have ended. So Islam is forever. Any other religion came, the Moses religion or Jesus, they were temporary. They were not forever. Islam is forever. Its influences are ever increasing. Even with all that, there are more and more people joining Islam throughout the world, and they're learning more. His message and seerah are preserved like no one else in this. Nobody's life is preserved like this, the way the Holy Prophet's life is preserved. With chain of narrations, with different hadiths, with everything about him. There's so much information is available about him. Next slide. So I just talked about why we study Sira, what does Sira mean, what are its benefits, why it is important to know the life of the most important person ever born. And now, especially in Ramadan, we can spend time learning about Holy Prophet Sallallahu which will provide blessings. It is the best way to spend time. Hazur is talking about Badri Sahabas for month I mentioned, and the reason is that we should pay also attention to these Sahabas and their stories. So with that, I will stop here and I'll continue that tomorrow. If anybody has any question, any comment, any suggestion. Any questions from Lajna? No questions? From Salasa?